I think that went pretty well, but one of our court reporter students that is increasing her speed substantially came to the board meeting and actually captured all of the board meeting on the device that they use as court reporters, and so that was kind of not only interesting, but it was also a good experience for the young lady as well, and so that was a positive. Also at the board meeting, we had Dr. Dean Evans, our board member from kind of the north central and the northeast part of our district, optometrist in Chandler, was sworn in for another 5-year term as the Zone 1 board member. And then we also reorganized the board. Gary Crane, our representative from kind of the northeast portion of our district, he lives in Prague, and he will be the board president again for another year. We do that on an annual basis. That's just kind of part of what we do each and every year. Had a few items that were reported to the board from me and from some staff members. Graduation will be here before we know it. I know it's March the 15th today, but May 22nd, I believe that's a Wednesday, May 22nd at 1 o'clock. I'll say this again both in May and in April, but really encourage all staff. I know our certified teachers that have our full-time programs, or most of them are always present, but encourage other staff to be there. It's a great event. The teachers, Becky Brindley, is heavily involved in making sure that's just a wonderful event. And so if you have a chance, make sure that you put May 22nd on your calendar, 1 o'clock. We're going to have it at the Event Center, the Citizens Potawatomi Nation Event Center, and so I would encourage you to be involved. Also, Kama Watts, our small business coordinator, I think she's got a little longer title than that. I can't spell or pronounce entrepreneur, but she's connected there. And Kama and Sarah Weeks and Vicki Mason and several other people on campus have been doing great work as far as health and wellness is concerned. And we received another designation from the state, from the Tobacco Settlement Trust. They have a designation that entities, in this case a school, can receive a designation as a healthy Oklahoma campus. We are one of just a few in the entire state, and again, Kama and Sarah and Vicki and Ashley Fickner and a whole host of other folks have been heavily involved in that. So not only congratulations to those ladies for their hard work to make that happen, but also congratulations to everybody. Hopefully you recognize the things that we try to do here to really emphasize health and wellness. The next item is item 8. It says discussion and update on the Public Safety Center. I think I mentioned this last month, but mentioned it to the board. From this point forward, each and every month, there will be an update to the board, not only on the construction of the new Public Safety Center, but also the finances that are associated with that. And so Mr. Byram gave the board an update on the new building, as would only be appropriate if I'm involved in a construction project. The drought has been broken. I think we're going to have 3 days of dry weather next week and then 5 days of floods. And so we'll see how that all goes. They're making some pretty good progress. The dirt work that you're seeing thus far is not all of the dirt work, but it's all of the dirt work that will deal with the parking, the pad for the facility itself, and then the pad for the fire training tower. And those are well underway. Little luck, by the 1st of April, they'll be pouring maybe the pad itself. And so we'll hope that they make some pretty good progress there and have a good summer to do a lot of good work with the Public Safety Center. Mr. Perry and myself and Dr. Saunders, Brett Byram, Matt Wiles all made a trip to Oklahoma City to sit down and visit with the architect on a few other aspects of that Public Safety Center this week, and those will be kind of going through the planning stages over the course of the next few weeks as well. Things such as the fire training tower itself, IT aspects of it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. One other thing that Brett shared with the board that I'd want to bring to your attention, did a great job, operations did, Mr. Byram specifically, on our new signage at the south entrance, and hopefully within the next few weeks, maybe a month or so, at the north entrance we'll take down the two north entrance signs that are a little dated and put up sign just on one side. There's a reason for that, and it's because we only have electricity on one side of that road. So we will put a sign up on the south side of our north entrance, if you're following me there, and it will look very, very similar to what we've got on our south entrance as well, and that's in the works also. Next item dealt with some out-of-state trip requests, and the first one is our first robotics championship. We're going to send about 30 students, and I think there's about 6 staff members that you see the time period there, April 15th to the 21st. They'll be going to Houston, Texas. We actually have 2 teams that will be participating. One is our FRC, I believe. Roger's not in here, but I believe it's the FRC team, which is kind of the, I won't call it the junior level, but it's at one level, and excuse me, it's the FTC, and then the first robotics team, the FRC team, competed this past week, and they also qualified. So we have 2 teams representing 30 kids out of pre-engineering that will be going down to what are called the World Championships in robotics, and congratulations to them. Ms. Frericks, Ms. Crouch, Mr. Smiddlecoffer, Mr. Bouchon, obviously Mr. Ferris, and David Hoffmeyer, and a host of other folks do a great job there, and those kids really do great work and have a really good time, and so it's exciting for them to go down. Also, the next out-of-state trip involves our 2 folks that are heavily involved in our paramedic program. They'll be going to some training. As I mentioned to the board, this is one of 2 trainings that these 2 gentlemen have gone to. They received about a $100,000 grant beginning of this fiscal year. This training and the previous one, as well as a lot of pieces of equipment, are paid for with the grant. And the grant is kind of exciting. Mr. Perry and I went to a Chandler legislative breakfast this morning, and one of the key topics that was talked about, and this should resonate a little bit with each and every one of you, was one of the audience members at this legislative breakfast was asking Senator Smalley and Representative Wallace, they're having incredible difficulties attracting and keeping paramedics, EMS professionals, I'll broadly call them, in the rural parts of the state. And we may or may not think that Lincoln County is that rural, or Pottawatomie County is, or Seminole County, but in our region that we represent, what I'm calling broadly health care is really under siege. Not only availability, but just the number of folks that can do that. And so the way that relates to what Curtis and Rusty are doing is they're trying to put together an online version of what we do on this campus, and the hope is that we can train more of those folks. Now, I'll be honest with you, what was mentioned in Chandler this morning was you train them up to become paramedics, and what do? They go to Oklahoma City and get a lot more pay because they need paramedics in Oklahoma City as much as they do in Chandler or Prague or Meeker or Stroud or Seminole, etc. And so that's kind of a tough thing, but hopefully with what Curtis and Rusty are doing, we're going to be able to help increase that pipeline a little bit and maybe address that somewhat. I will tell you, those of you that live in our geographic area, that's a big deal. Not as a career tech person, but as somebody that lives in that area, you have to understand that access to medical care and access to emergency medical care is a luxury. And your access to it is shrinking all the time. I don't care if you live in Jacktown or Bethel Acres. You got the same conundrum. And They're not going to solve it at the Capitol. We're going to have to solve it ourselves, and Gordon Cooper is going to be in a position to try to help with that. Next item is some surplus items, pretty well self-explanatory. I'll go ahead and fast forward to item 13. Item 13 was the employment of our new criminal justice instructor, Troy Thompson. Troy is about a 25, 28-year veteran of the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. We went through the typical hiring process that we do, made advertisements throughout the state, throughout the region, in newsprint, online, etc. Narrowed it down to 3 individuals to interview, narrowed it down to 2 people. Mr. Perry and I interviewed those 2 folks, did all of our background checks and checked with everybody that we possibly could, and we recommended Troy be our instructor for next year. He will actually start on April the 1st. We'll give him a couple of months here at the end of this fiscal year to kind of get caught up. Brand new program, a lot of things to be decided and determined, etc. And we're excited about not only the program, but Troy as well. Having said that, to my right, I won't embarrass her and put her on camera, but we have our new HR coordinator with us, not only today, but she started on March the 6th, Charlotte Burchett, and she comes to us from CPN, and I've already been yelled at more than once by a few folks with CPN about that, but their loss was our gain. We're excited to have her, and just welcome to Gordon Cooper, Charlotte. The other items that deal with personnel are what I would call fairly standard. In the month of March, we deal with what I refer to as the professional staff. That would be the non-hourly employees and the non-certified instructors. And so those folks are dealt with in the month of March. Next month, in April, we'll deal with the certified teachers. And then in May, we'll deal with our hourly support employees. This month, again, March, we dealt with our professional staff. They fit into about 3 different categories. And you can see those there. All of those individuals were rehired for the FY 2020 school year. In addition, item 17 deals with our Eagle staff. Trilbia and Gloria, they're dealt with just a little bit different because they are totally funded by a federal grant. And so we have to each year hire them basically contingent upon receiving that federal funding. It's not any concern that we won't, but that's always something that you need to consider there. Item 18 is pretty standard, and then items 19 through 22, all finance-related kinds of things that the board deals with each and every month. That deals with the board meeting. Let me make reference to just a few more things. First of all, earlier this week, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, I think it was Wednesday, you might have saw some 5th graders on campus. You may or may not have known that they were 5th graders. You just knew they were a lot younger than the folks that are normally here. I will tell you that about 3 years ago, body work or anything like that. Basically, this was an effort by the legislature to encourage our K-12 partners and our K-8 partners to really start exposing kids to career opportunities at a younger and younger level. We've been doing 8th grade expo for decades, sophomore showcase for decades, and we've had some younger kids out here periodically, but it's never been real systematic. Well, you're probably going to see that happen more and more in the future as more and more districts reach out to us and say, hey, we'd like our kids to come out and at least just kind of take a little cursory tour. I never expect it to be much along the lines of the 8th grade expo or the sophomore showcase, but this time we had all of the Shawnee elementary 5th graders on campus, and that was a good experience. I know a few people in the room with us right now were actively involved in that, and really it's nothing more than letting those kids see and maybe touch a little bit some different things. Plant that seed, not only about Gordon Cooper, but about careers. And that's what the ICAP program is designed to do. Phone system. Mr. Wiles and the IT staff have done a really good job of not only getting that installed, but also doing some training. They've went through one full level of training, folks, on just kind of the basic use of our phone system. I regret to inform you we're still being held up by AT&T. As Matt mentioned to you in the training sessions, if they happen to relent and free up the phone numbers, that's out of our control. That's between Vonage and AT&T, and unfortunately AT&T holds the upper hand there. There was some sort of call I could make, I'd love to do it, but those telcos kind of do what they want to do, and they do it when they want to do it, and that's kind of where we're at. The technical piece on campus, you've probably started receiving maybe some intercom calls internally, etc., but that will move forward. As Matt mentioned to you, look for an opportunity. If you have questions, just get with them one-on-one. That phone system, once it fully gets implemented, has a lot of really excellent features. He didn't share all of them with you, but some really excellent features that will make it a lot more manageable from an IT standpoint, and also a lot more convenient for the end user. So be mindful of that. Rocket Man Run, March 30th. As of just a little bit ago, I think we had about 160 participants. I know that Ms. Linda Capps, one of our great supporters with Citizen Potawatomi Nation, is probably sending, as we speak, some more participants. I will tell you, I'm still disappointed because we didn't get 30% of our staff to sign up, but maybe at some particular point in time we'll get that. We'll have about 20 staff members that signed up when it's all said and done, but we'll keep working on that. Going to raise a lot of money that directly impacts our kids in your programs. Doesn't go anyplace else. And so anything you can do above and beyond would certainly be appreciated. Last thing that I've got is legislation. And I want to highlight about 3 pieces of legislation, and hopefully you'll engage as it relates to this. One piece of legislation, and I'll go ahead and give you the number. It's Senate Bill SB 9, the number 9. Senate Bill 9 passed out of the Senate, which means it cleared that chamber. It will go to the House, and the House will take it up. And it's a little scary. I don't know every nuance of that bill, but Senate Bill 9 is going to potentially mandate another history class that an 11th grader or a 12th grader must take as an 11th grader or a 12th grader. All right? Sounds rather innocuous on the surface. The problem with that is if there's another required course, then that's one more obstacle for a kid to come to Gordon Cooper Technology Center. Because the more required courses they have to take as 11th and 12th graders, then that makes it a bigger hurdle for us. And so, going to watch that closely. The history class is technically not a history. It's a civics class. I'm going to call it what it is. They want to do it at the 11th and 12th grade, not the 9th grade, which is when I took civics, because they think they're going to forget about it by the time they can vote. Well, they don't know 11th and 12th graders very well. But nonetheless, the Senate Bill 9 is of concern, and it should be of concern to each one of you. The next 2 bills, and you're going to notice a trend here, are both Senate bills also. A lot of folks have been asking about the 4-day week, and are they going to force some things there? There were 2 pieces of legislation that again passed out of the Senate. The limiting days and hours is really a Senate preoccupation, not a House. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how that plays out. Both of these are Senate bills. They left the Senate, passed the Senate, and both of them do one or both of the following. They either increase the hours and the days, or they just do one or the other. One of them is by a Marty Quinn, and he is going to keep the 1,080 hours, which is the current requirement, but say that's got to be at least 165 days. So the Ashers, the McLeods, etc., that are currently 4-period days, there's no way they could get 165 days and still, a 4-day week with 165 days. Don't know what will happen there. The other one is by Stanislavski, and he is increasing the hours from 1080 to 1140, and he's backing off of the days from 168 to 155. If you have an opinion about that personally, maybe one of your children's in a district that kind of modifies things a little bit, you may want to keep aware of that. Honestly, I don't have a strong feeling from an impact on Gordon Cooper perspective. I do have a strong feeling educationally, but that's just an opinion. I really haven't seen that Asher and some of the others have adversely affected us when they went to a 4-day week, but we're going to need to pay attention to that. Let's see. I believe that is it. Does anybody in this audience have any questions? Seeing none. The last thing that I'm going to say, didn't take long, did it, Tracy? Last thing I'm going to say is have a great spring break. I know several of you will be off next week. Some of us will be off a couple of days. Have a great week. Be safe. I'll mention one last thing. If you want to know why I'm wearing purple today, and Bob is as well, I don't know if he knew about this. The young lady from Kanawha, a little 6th grade girl that died, her funeral is today, or was today actually, and statewide a lot of the administrators were encouraged to wear purple because that was her favorite color. And so continue to remember that community. That is tragic on so many different levels, and they will be dealing with it for some time to come. So with that, have a great spring break, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.